Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom. This is our TOEIC unit for today, and we're going to be talking about putting things first. First things first, setting out a list of priorities. Sometimes you want to do this if you're falling behind at work or falling behind at school, or if you just want to organize your personal life a little bit more so that you can actually accomplish more. It might be a good idea to listen to today's conversation. Jane and Fred are talking about kind of setting priorities and making these kinds of lists.
It's important to do if you're working, especially at a job in an office. You typically have lots of requests from different people or different departments, and you have to decide what's most important. Actually, if you're a student, you should always have a list of priorities or a list of things to do and put the things that are most important on the top. We're going to talk about how they discuss these sorts of things and how this can help you if you're studying for the TOEIC test that's in your future.
Yeah.
We wish you lots of luck with that. We're going to go ahead and read through the dialogue, guys, and then we'll be back to explain some things and add some of our own thoughts. How's your new job going, Fred?
It's pretty tough right now. I'm staying late several times a week to cope with my workload.
Are they giving you a lot of work to do?
Yes, and sometimes the deadlines are tight. I'm feeling pretty down right now because I can never seem to get it all done. I'm afraid I'm going to drop the ball on something big sooner or later.
It's not uncommon to get a large workload. And since you're new to the job, it'll take you some time to get used to all the different tasks. What you need to do is learn how to prioritize.
Have you got any advice on how to do that? I confess that I've never been that good at organizing.
Well, the first step is to know what you have to do. Make a list of all the assignments you have and when they are due. That way, you'll know which tasks are the most urgent.
What should I do about regular daily tasks like answering emails?
You can add them to your list or make a separate list of regular tasks. You can just check them off when they're complete.
There always seems to be so much to do.
Try narrowing your focus to completing one job at a time, starting with those with the highest priority.
Okay, let's talk about today's conversation between Jane and Fred. The title of our conversation is First Things First, which means the most important things should be taken care of first. I can think of a similar phrase, first come, first served, which is basically if you go to a restaurant or something, the first person who arrives there should be the first person who gets service. A lot of times that doesn't really happen, though. Somebody else comes in and says, hey, I need a table for four. I'll take that one over there. Some people are kind of pushy that way. But that's kind of different here. That's more about being polite in public. This is about setting priorities. First things first.
So Jane starts out by asking her friend Fred how his new job's going. Fred says it's pretty tough right now, so it's hard. We know that he's having a bit of a rough time. He's struggling, perhaps. He says, I'm staying late several times a week to cope with my workload. Your workload includes all the stuff that you have to do, that you're assigned and that is your responsibility. If you cope with something, it means you struggle or deal with something. You try to face it and deal with any responsibilities that you might have or problems or difficulties. To cope means you're able to face it and get through with handling some of the things in front of you. Or as we like to say, you can cope with the things on your plate, like you have a plate of food with all of your assignments on that plate.
And cope with difficulties in life. How do you cope with stress, for example? Oh, I like to see movies and stuff like that, get together with friends or whatever. And so here he says it's difficult to cope with his workload. It's just so overwhelming, so he has to work overtime, stay late many times a week to cope with it, to keep up, to finish his work so that he can go home. Jane has a question here. Are they giving you a lot of work to do? Duh, it sounds like he's already answered that question here. He has to stay late several times a week to cope with his workload. So yes, indeed, I'm imagining that he does get a lot of work. He says yes, and sometimes the deadlines are tight. A deadline, of course, is the due date when something is supposed to be finished. And, of course, the boss is always going, I need that right now. The deadline is this afternoon at 4 o'clock. You better get it done. Chop, chop, or you're fired.
Chop, chop means hurry, just in case you didn't know. So, yeah, it can make you feel a little bit depressed. He's saying he feels pretty down right now, kind of blue, kind of depressed, because he can never seem to get it all done. Well, if you work in an office, you're never going to be able to get everything done. It just, things are ongoing and you always get new stuff thrown at you. He says, I'm afraid I'm going to drop the ball. If you drop the ball, you don't complete what you've been asked to do, or you forget something. Think about someone who juggles with balls. There are 3 balls. Aren't there 3 or 4 balls you throw in the air?
Yeah, the most basic is 3, but some people juggle maybe up to 20 or so.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, if you drop the ball, you kind of mess everything up. So you don't want to drop the ball and not finish your responsibilities. You let people down when you drop the ball.
That's right. I was wondering if this has to do with American football or something, but I think the juggling reference makes more sense here because you are trying to juggle all sorts of different kinds of tasks.
All at the same time.
Yeah, if you drop one of those balls, you basically drop everything. So he's afraid he's going to screw up big time.
Yeah.
He's going to make a big mistake. So, of course, that's probably giving him a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. Well, Jane says it's not uncommon to get a large workload. As Stephanie just said, if you work in an office, you kind of got to get used to that. They're just always going to be sending stuff your way. And she says, and since you're new to the job, it'll take you some time to get used to all the different tasks. It will take him some time to be accustomed to all the different things he has to do. Or I could say it'll take him some time to learn the ropes, or just get used to working in that office there.
Yeah, it does take a little while, especially if it's an industry that you're unfamiliar with. Fred says, have you got any... I forgot Jane's last piece here. She says, what you need to do is learn how to prioritize. If you prioritize, that's the verb form of the word priority. It means you arrange things in the order that you are going to finish them or tackle them. So first on your list is the most important thing, and last on the list is the least important thing you have to do.
Right, this is a verb here, to prioritize. The noun is priority. What is your priority? Or what are your priorities in life? To graduate from university, to get a good job, to raise a family, to buy a nice house and a nice car and retire and live in Kinding or something like that. Could be a list of your priorities in life, or maybe you're thinking, I'm just going to work in a factory and then just make some money and then die young or something. I don't think anybody would have that kind of plan, but in any case here, you need to prioritize what you're doing in the office. And Fred probably realizes that. He realizes this, I know I've got to do that, but saying is one thing, doing is another. So he's got a question for her. Have you got any advice on how to do that? Yes, I realize I need to prioritize, I need to get organized, but I need some advice from you. Advice here, of course, is just information that somebody gives you, especially if they know more about it than you do. So, of course, if you know somebody who's gone to university and you're just starting, so you might want to get some advice from them. Yeah, how can I get good grades in university? What sorts of things should I do? Give me some advice. And remember, the verb is advise, where the C is changed to an S there. Will you advise me on this? Give me some advice.
And the verb, of course, has that Z sound, advise, and the noun has a S sound, advice. So be careful with that. Well, of course, Fred goes on to say, I confess that I've never been that good at organizing. If you confess something, you admit to being not very good at something, or maybe having a weakness, or you admit something that's true that's kind of difficult to say out loud. He's not good at organizing. A lot of people aren't, but it's a skill that you can get better at. You can learn, right? You organize things, you put things in the right order. So it's just not, I was going to say, 乱七八糟.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mess. I look at some people's desks and I think, how do they get anything done? Their desk is a mess. The first thing you need to do is organize your desk and your paper. Don't make your desk just kind of a mess that people wonder if you're getting anything done.
Yeah, actually, I've heard something about research that says that people who do have sloppy desks or something actually get more things done than other people, but that's probably very subjective. You'd probably have to do some reading on that.
Not me.
Yeah.
I have to be organized.
Yeah, some people have to have their desks as clean as possible.
Yeah.
They have to look like they just came out of the factory or something like that. But in any case here, yes, he's never been good at organizing. And Jane says, well, the first step is to know what you have to do. Okay, so yes, indeed, that is true. Know exactly what jobs you have. If somebody told you yesterday that you need to get some report done, and then you forgot all about it, and then that person comes back and says, well, is my report ready? And you go, report? Report? You're supposed to have it done now.
Yeah.
So yes, indeed, you need to know what you have to do. So she says, make a list of all the assignments you have and when they are due. An assignment basically is a task that someone has asked you to do. You have assignments in school, for example. Your teacher might give you an assignment. You're supposed to read the next chapter and maybe write an essay about nuclear fusion or something like that. That would be an example of a class assignment.
And if it's due, that's the time that someone has asked you to have something finished and presented to them. So we have a lot of due dates and deadlines in our lives. Your utility bill is probably due at the end of the month. That's when you're expected to pay it. Well, Jane says that way you'll know which tasks are the most urgent. If something's urgent, it is needed very, very quickly. You can't delay. You can't just put it to the side of your desk and go, well, I'll think about it later. If something's urgent, you need to do that first and do not delay. Fred goes on to ask this question, what should I do about regular daily tasks like answering emails? If you answer your emails that you get, you can sometimes spend the best part of the morning, several hours. So you have to make sure that you figure out how to handle those regular daily tasks along with the more urgent tasks you have, or the projects or the assignments that have due dates on them. You got to work all those deadlines in together. Figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah, you can't neglect these other little duties. Emails may sound like, oh, I can answer that anytime. It's no big deal, but you still need to get that stuff done. And in the long run, it's all very important to have that stuff done.
Well, there could be an email there with an urgent due date.
Yeah.
So be careful.
You just never know. So you've got to check everything, especially nowadays. You got to check your email and your line messages and your WhatsApp messages, Instagram, Facebook. You got to be checking everything so that you don't miss anything, and it can get quite confusing. So, of course, he's confused, and he's asking her how to put priority on certain things, how to organize things. And Jane, well, I guess she's a know-it-all here. She has the answer to every question that he asks. She says, you can add them to your list or make a separate list of regular tasks. So I guess there are different ways to organize here. Put them on your list of things to do. And, of course, next to each item, you need to put the due date as well. And then you could also make a separate separate list of regular tasks, which means a different list. Separate just means not together with the first one.
Yeah, I might keep them on the same piece of paper so I don't forget anything. And then maybe put the regular tasks at the bottom or at the top, something like that.
Or in a different column or something.
Yeah. And she says you can just check them off when they're complete. One of the best feelings in this life, for me at least, is to look at my list of things to do and be able to cross it off my list or put a check mark. Meaning, I finished this, it's done. It makes me feel so good. I especially like to cross the whole item off the list. I don't just do a check mark. I just take my pen or pencil and I cross the whole thing off. That makes me feel extra good.
Yeah, that does feel good, especially if you can cross it off with one complete line all the way through the center of it. So she's saying here you can check them off or just write a line through them when they're complete.
Yeah.
And then I guess you can update your list later. Fred goes on to say, there always seems to be so much to do. It is true if you make that list, it seems like you can never get all those items off the list. If you check off 2 or 3 items, by the time you've checked off those 2 or 3 items, 2 or more new items appear on your list. It's just never ending. It just never comes to an end. So he's kind of frustrated here. Maybe he's sighing here. Phew, there always seems to be so much to do. What am I going to do?
Here's her final piece of advice for our young Fred, who's probably new to the marketplace. He hasn't had a lot of job experience. She says, try narrowing your focus to completing one job at a time, starting with those with the highest priority. Some people aren't very good at multitasking or trying to complete several jobs at the same time. Figure out what you're good at and stick with that. Doesn't matter what other people are good at. If you're not good at multitasking, and many men are not, many women are because a lot of them are mothers and they have to learn how to take care of their kids and their husbands and everything at the same time. My dad is not a multitasker, but he's very good at completing each task. So try narrowing your focus. If you narrow something, guys, you take some sort of range and you make it smaller. So don't try to do everything at the same time. You'll fail at everything at the same time. Just take one task at a time, complete it, and you'll feel really good.
Or do as much with it as you can until you're like at a point where you need to wait for something, like you need to wait for a phone call from somebody. So while you're waiting, then work on another task. You can figure these things out. You prioritize, you narrow your focus, and you start with those with the highest priority. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. We're going to have some extra dialogues here in just a couple of seconds, but right now we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们看的是第10单元。好，它的标题是 First things first. First things first. 这个其实我们常讲，它的意思是要事先办。好，那我们来看下面呢，这个对话内容里面，今天的重点是在谈怎么样应付庞大的工作量。我们就先从应付这个片语说起。应付呢，英文里面你可以有几个选择，最常见的就是 deal with。那像这里 cope with 也是一样。换句话说，怎么样去处理，怎么样去解决，怎么样去面对。cope with, deal with， 或者是你用 handle， 这些意思其实都很类似。那提到 workload， 工作量，如果你工作量很多，那该怎么办呢？好，这个人呢，他就抱怨了。他说有时候呢，截止日期非常的赶 ，deadlines are tight。好，这个 tight 就好像你在讲你课程很赶一样，你的整天的 schedule 非常的 tight， 就是非常的赶。换句话说，有一堆事情做不完。好，然后呢，他就说了 I can never seem to get it all done。好，我们把事情做完，当然是人去做事情，可是我们常常用的英文是 get something done。好，我们用这个片语里头的 done， 它是一个过去分词，因为我们知道事情是被做的，所以你要用 D-O-N-E。好，那这个人的抱怨，他是觉得他很担心迟早有一天会犯错。那这个 Jane 的回答是 但是呢，因为你对这个工作本身的内容不熟悉，所以说当然要花一点时间去习惯它。那我们看到这个习惯语，这个片语 get used to， 我们知道这个 used to 如果前面加个 get， 这就表示习惯某事，所以to 是介系词，那后面要接的是名词。那有时候我们会看到的是没有 get， 没有 be 动词，你看到的是 used to 这两个字，那就变成了一个动词片语哦，表示他以前一向怎么做，后面加的是原形动词，这要区别开来。好，以这边来说 get used to 习惯语，接下来他就说应该怎么办？其实呢，必须要把事情的前后优先顺序弄清楚。What you need to do is learn how to prioritize. 好，重点在于这个主词部分 What you need to do. 当你看到这样的开头，后面加一个 be 动词，你就知道了，其实主词是整句话， be 动词是这个整个句子的动词，那后面要接着怎么写呢？要接原形动词。All you have to do is 好，加原动。What you need to do is 加原动。记得这个是约定俗成的用法，当然你也可以说它其实是一个不定词符号 to 被省略掉了，我们一般看到的就是原形动词。你要做的就是 learn how to prioritize。 Prioritize 也是一个重要的字，表示要定优先顺序。好，那接下来呢，他建议他应该怎么办？第一步、第二步等等等。但是提到第一步 the first step is 好 the first step 我们知道，我们提到这个 first the first person to 它后面都是表示第一个怎么样的人，或第一个步骤是做什么，你要记得后面用不定词。 The first step is to know what you have to do。 第一步就是要知道你要做什么。好，然后呢，包括什么时间到期，先列一张清单。那后面呢，他又继续告诉他，如果是回复电子邮件的话，他的问题是那该怎么办呢？他提到有一个很简单的方式，就是你把这些工作放到清单里，然后或者是你另外单独成立一个清单，然后你可以怎么样 check them off。 这个 check them off 就表示说你打勾核对， check 本身就是做勾记。好，那这个片语特别注意。最后呢，他又说其实啊，要把这种很多的事情做好，而且做得有条有理，他 Jane 的建议是 try narrowing your focus to completing one job at a time。 好，注意到这句话 narrow 本来就是缩减限制，那如果你是 narrow something to， 这个 to 它是一个介系词哦，表示说你把它限制于什么样的情况，一次做一件事。好，这个 to 是介系词。同样的用法其实我们也常见到，像 limit something to 一样的，把什么事情限制于。 OK， 我们今天的说明就到这里结束。
Okay, guys, it's time for our extra dialogues and our discussion question. As you know, we go through some additional dialogues, and then we talk about what those mean, to us at least, in our experience. And then finally, we'll have one more discussion question that we hope you guys will use as a way to practice your English as well. So, Tom, do you want to be A or B today?
There is nothing that I would love more than to be A. So here I go.
Go.
What should I do to make this list?
You can write it down or use a computer. There are a few programs designed to help people organize their workloads. That's interesting. So everybody has their own system. You just need to find what works for you. My system, honestly, is not to use anything computerized. I just have a piece of paper. I fold it so it's a little thicker. And then I use a pen or a pencil and I start writing my list of things to do. And I keep it with me and I get really excited when I can check something off or cross it off my list. What do you use, Tom?
Similar. Handwritten too, especially if you write it by hand using pen. It just kind of makes it more solid, I guess, if you're writing it yourself, and it just makes it more real. If you write it on a computer screen, that's just little bits of light on a screen, and you don't really take them too seriously. At least I don't.
Yeah.
So, if you write it on an actual piece of paper that you can feel and smell, and it takes you a couple extra seconds to write that, then that will make it feel like the items on the list are more important. And, of course, you can feel extra good when you can cross those items off that list using a swipe of the pen or a stroke of the pen.
I actually bought a small little notebook that I keep in my purse, and I carry it with me that has my list of things to do on it.
Very good. Okay, let's move on now to the next conversation. Should I just start at the top of my list and work my way down?
If you prioritize your list by the due date, you'll want to work from the top down. I don't prioritize by the due date. I just write down everything that comes to mind, and then I look at it, I analyze it, and I decide at that point which one to do first. What do you do, Tom?
Something like that, yeah, indeed. It's very hard to have the due date listed at the top because these things change all the time.
Yeah.
So you kind of maybe have to scratch out the list and start all over again. So, yes, indeed, I probably don't think this is the way I would do it. Start at the top of your list. You need to kind of look at it as a whole. The top item isn't necessarily the top priority, and just kind of figure out what needs to be done first, and so on down the line.
Yeah, my list is a little messy looking maybe to some people, but I know what I'm doing, and it's got, there's a method to it that I've worked out. Here's the last one, Tom. I'm going to be A.
Okay.
What about large projects that take several days?
Work on one thing at a time and don't start a new project until the one you're working on is complete.
Now, you pointed out a problem with this particular method. Sometimes you have a large project that requires other people's input. So sometimes you're waiting around for them before you can finish it. So Tom's suggestion earlier in the program is finish as much of a task as you can. If you're waiting for more information to come, then go ahead and move on to the next thing on your list.
That's exactly right. So that's what I would do, and maybe it sounds like what you would do, but maybe some other people don't quite think that way.
I can't afford to waste time, though, so I have to move on to the next task.
Some people just might think, no, I'm not going to do anything else until I finish this one project. That's just the way I am. But I think that you need to be flexible, and sometimes, yes, indeed, you are waiting for somebody to get back from the bathroom to give you that information, and you're not just going to sit there twiddling your thumbs waiting for that information. So, yes, indeed, you should probably be doing things. You should be multitasking as much as you can.
Yeah. Okay, here's our last discussion question here, Tom. Are you an organized person? Give examples to explain your answer.
An organized person.
Are you organized, Tom?
Not really. I try to make lists and stuff, but it's amazing how often I lose things and I forget about things. So I would not say I'm an organized person. Maybe I can take some sort of class. How about you?
I used to be a manager in New York City, and I had to be organized at that point. Now that it's just me managing my own workload, I could be more organized. The one thing I found out about me, though, is I can't have a messy desk or a messy apartment because I don't get as much done. If everything's really organized and clean around me, I just end up doing more. I get more work done. So if you're not organized, you can talk to people who are, get some tips from them, and try to put as much organization into your life as possible. I do think people who are organized succeed more in life.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure you join us again next time for another edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.